Hello and welcome to Rangers Rabble Extra. I'm your host, Scott Kennedy, and this evening I'm joined by Wilf Marshall and Greg Campbell. Hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, how are you doing?
All good, thank you. All good. Just starting tonight's pod, and a quick acknowledgement of the sad passing of Gerard Houllier, who was, by all accounts, a well thought of individual, particularly in the football world. Notable manager of Paris Saint-Germain, Lyon, Liverpool, and the French national team. He, like our very own Steven Gerrard, managed to kickstart Liverpool's silverware campaign, and I'm sure everyone joins me in wishing all the very best and sincere condolences to his family.
It's always it's always hear of the passing of a football legend, and Mr. Houllier in management terms certainly was a legend, and Steven Gerrard speaks highly of him, so that's good enough for me. So condolences, obviously, to Mr. Houlier's family. Yeah, very sad news. So we'll jump straight to it. The reason why we're on Rangers Rabble Extra tonight is to discuss the Alfredo Morelos incident. We found out yesterday that he potentially be cited today, which he has. We all saw the incident. Wilf, what was your thoughts on the actual incident? And do you think this is the old petulant Alfredo Morelos returning, or is this just a case of a combative striker? I think it was fairly petulant at the time. I thought it was petulant. He was very, very lucky not to get sent off at the time. I think had the officials had a clear view of it, they would have sent him off, but they must have seen something before he got yellow carded. I mean, in the aftermath of today's events, there's people on social media saying, well, he was yellow carded for barging into the player with no attempt to play the ball. But I mean, that happens half a dozen times in the game, and players don't get carded for it. So I don't know what the referee thought he saw. But I mean, to answer your question, yeah, I think he was quite petulant. But having said that, to give Alfie his due, at no point after that did he look like he was going to get sent off. You know, he sort of calmed right down after it, which in previous seasons he would just have got sent off about 5 or 10 minutes later. Yeah,
so would you say you're not actually that concerned about a return to city kickouts, what we've seen previously in previous years?
No, I don't think so. No, I mean the fact. I mean, we'll touch on it, I'm sure. The fact that the club have accepted the too much ban that's been offered will hopefully calm them down. They'll say, look, you know, you're not really in the best of goal scoring form. You need to be scoring goals, and you're not going to be scoring goals sitting in the stand. So let's hopefully that's the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, were you surprised at all that he was cited for that?
Yeah, I think so. As I said, I think the challenge itself was silly from Morelos. I think getting up his arm, that's why obviously he's got the booking. But then it just kind of boils out to then the consistency. Obviously, maybe as Wilf was saying, the officials haven't seen the elbow, so that's how it's kind of taken further. Whereas I was always under the impression that if a player get yellow carded during the game, and that was the end of it, that you couldn't take it any further. But then obviously I think there's been some exemptions, but I think it's nothing to worry about overall. I think for Morelos, I think Gerrard's done really well in controlling his temperament and really trying to help him focus on the football side of things. So I think as Wilf said as well, the way he handled himself after the kind of incident, I don't think it's any really cause for concern for the future. But I think it's just for Morelos to try and be mindful and not give the referee a decision to make.
But it's interesting, if we go back to the Dundee United home game, and Gerrard was actually citing himself for post-match comments for what he made. Greg, do you think he might have been slightly vindicated by today's decision to make those comments?
Possibly, yeah. I think it kind of Gerrard does his interviews well. I think he's very honest. He's going to be honest, like in general. I think also for Rangers, but just in what he's actually seeing and stuff. And the home game as well with the challenge on Morelos, I don't think anything came of that, which was probably worse.
Yeah. Just to clarify for the viewers what I'm talking about, there was a tackle, I can't remember the gentleman that did it on Morelos, who was only yellow carded, and Gerrard turned around and said, "I'd be interested if the shoe was on the foot of Morelos making that tackle, whether he'd still be on the pitch." Wilf, what are your thoughts?
I think yes. What happened? What's happened on Sunday, and since Sunday has vindicated Mr. Gerrard's comments after the United game at Ibrox. I just can't help thinking that I know there's been other cases where a yellow card's been upgraded to a red card, but it just seems to be it's back to the trial by sports scene thing. You know, it's highlighted on the media. It's Morelos again, and his past history's come back to haunt him because they looked at it and went, "Well, look, he's back to his old tricks again." And sports scene have highlighted that it's been all over the national press and it's all over social media, and then the compliance officer raises their ugly head and goes, "Well, we better do something about this." It's funny that it never happens to any other high-profile players.
Yeah, that's very true. I don't want to really get drawn into a lot of whataboutery. I don't think we need to. I think that's as obvious as anything. Greg, I mean, are you concerned that Rangers haven't appealed this decision? Are you concerned that they might be just lying down with all of this, or are you expecting a reaction or a statement or anything?
And no, I don't think so. I think Rangers have recognised the challenge for what it is and thought, right, well, there's bigger games coming up for Rangers, so I think that's why they've took the 2-match ban, because like tomorrow's game in the Cup, the chances are Morelos wouldn't have started the game, so that's one game out the way, and then Motherwell, as well as obviously like Itten and Defoe and Roof strikers are more than capable of filling in for him as well. So I think it was more to do with kind of bigger games ahead and looking forward to have Morelos available for when maybe we play Hibs, Ibrox and Celtic in the coming months. So no, I think they handled it in the best way. Yeah, I think it's been well done with Rangers, and I don't think any kind of further comments really needed on that.
Yeah, so Wilf, are you thinking this might be a bit of a tactical take it and run? Just looking at the fixtures ahead. Well, would Morelos have played anyway? Are we playing the game a little bit here?
Yeah, I think you guys are both spot on there. The timing of the charge is beneficial for Rangers, because I don't think, as Greg said, I don't think Morelos would have played tomorrow anyway. There's been a certain section of the Rangers support clamouring for him to be rested because of his form, and 2 games for him to miss a cup tie with St Mirren, where, as I say, he probably wouldn't have featured anyway. Certainly wouldn't have started, I don't think. And then a home game against Motherwell. It's better for us that he misses them rather than be suspended on Thursday, because he would have got a suspension for it, because he should have been sent off at the time. So he's guilty as charged, really. You can argue the merits of the citing, but he was going to be found guilty. They probably handed him a 3-match ban, which would have been obviously Motherwell, which he's missing anyway. Then the away game at St Johnstone, and then Hibs on Boxing Day. We could really do with him for Hibs and potentially for St Johnstone. So I think the timing of it suits Rangers, which is probably why they said, "Look, we'll just accept it, because he'll lose he'd lose it anyway if it went to the tribunal on Thursday." Yeah,
I completely agree with that. I think what we've learned over the past couple of days is the hysteria around Morelos never truly leaves. I mean, Greg, prior to this, I rarely remember seeing him in the headlines for negative reasons. I mean, how long has it been? I know we haven't had football for quite a while, but even so, last season we weren't talking about him. So why?
I know it baffles me as well. It really, really is frustrating, because he's, as we've all seen, he's a fantastic footballer, even for watching, if you're a neutral point of view as well. His ability on the park and his talent is what people should be focusing on, because when he's on the park at his best, he's great, scoring goals, link-up play, hold-up play, and just he's a delight to watch. It gets fans excited. So it was great to see that that's what everybody was focusing on, because that's what we want to see, is watching any footballer. But as Wilf was saying earlier on, I think it's all kind of media-based. I think people can't get the fact away that because the Scottish football game's tough, and because he's kind of come into that nature where he's been up against it and he's had to stand up for himself, I think that's always going to be in a media kind of sense, that people are going to have that opinion of him, which which isn't right, and it's individual views, and then people jump the bandwagon and it goes for there. But it's a shame because even though he's not scoring goals this season, he's still been really good in the football part, and his temperament has been really good. So I think people should be talking about how well he's done, because it could have just went totally downhill and his career could have been up in the arm. But he's really went, I need to get this together here, concentrate my football, and that's what he's been doing. But there's been no talk about that, which is a shame, and that's what everybody should be talking about. But you just hope for the future that people can see that side of him and just build from there. But it's difficult.
Exactly. I suppose the compliance officer and the process that she follows can come under some scrutiny. I mean, Wilf, how would you change things from there? Do they need changing, or is it just a case of the personnel?
Well, I think it's more the personnel. Now, we know that is it Claire White, they call her, the current compliance officer? She's leaving in January. You know, she's already working on notice, and there's chat of them, I think, changing the whole system or even scrapping the system altogether when she goes. Now, whether that's because they can't afford to replace her because you know, the authorities don't have any money, and that's a big wage saved, or if they are going to appoint somebody else and look at doing it a different way. But they have to do something, because it does, as I said earlier, it does seem to be, if the press highlight a player making a challenge that the referee didn't send them off for, they get hammered. So if for the clubs that are press compliant, nothing ever happens to them. Whereas you get players like Morelos, and there has previously been a witch hunt on Morelos. I mean, it's noticeable. It's been a year since he had a red card.
There you go. Yeah.
Last weekend since the last time he got sent off, I think. You know, so that tells its own story. You could also argue it's partly down to the fact that we've changed where he plays, because he's no longer up against big strapping centre halves that knock him about, and he just because most of his red cards were for stupid things and for petulance, for him losing the rag a little bit. So it's as if he's kind of matured and grown up, as the way he plays has developed. We've taken him kind of out of the firing line, so to speak, because he's not just right up against the centre half all the time. You know, so I think the club have done their bit to try and help his disciplinary while, you know, helping the team as well. And then he does something like this. But the whole compliance system's wrong, because we don't know. Like we all thought, you know, he's been booked, nothing can happen. Turns out this is the fourth or fifth time that a yellow card's been upgraded to a red card, because one of the journalists put it on Twitter earlier on. The other four, I think it was. You know, so I mean, nobody knows what the compliance officer can and can't do. So the system definitely shaken up a bit.
Yeah. It does. For want of a better phrase, feel like they're making it up as they go along. Which, you know, it's quite interesting that on the day that Rangers have their AGM, they specifically mention the governance in Scottish football, and I think it extends far greater than just what happened in the summer, and it does highlight things like that. I mean, Greg, is it also a coincidence today that all of a sudden, what time was this announced? We were at 2:00 in the afternoon after we announced our AGM, that Morelos then gets cited again? I mean, am I reading too much?
No, it certainly feels that way, because it's hard to choose a choice of words. It's not like an agenda, but there's definitely the majority of people within Scottish football, I'd personal opinion, don't like to see Rangers do well and be successful. And I think, again, just for media based and maybe people who have kind of been on the board and stuff for the SPFL, I think it's just they just seem to have the timing and like their shoes too when Rangers seem to have been doing well, and it's difficult to kind of pinpoint to why that is. But yeah, it seems to be when Rangers have really been positive in the AGM, as we've seen, was really great, one of the best we've probably had in years, with just every day talking how positive and how well things are doing. But then, as you say, that's been brought up about Morelos, but it just seems to be, I think, again, just down to media and under the SPFL board to why they kind of then that's bringing something negative back up again. It's as if they listen to too much outside noise and it's really taken on board, and then that becomes the bigger thing that Rangers is this big bad club again, when really that's not the case. I think the whole SPFL board really needs kind of revamped. I think they really need to look at restructuring it just for the whole benefit of the Scottish game. I don't think there's fairness for probably all the clubs and all the divisions. I think they really need to look at how they're going to treat each team fairly and equally in a way that you would expect in any kind of business.
I think that's enough for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen. You have been watching and listening to Rangers Rabble Extra. We are available on Facebook, YouTube, and other streaming platforms. So I will bid you good night.